I'd like to welcome you to this work session on September 26, 2024, of the Town Council of Urbana, Virginia. Let's have roll call. Marjorie Austin.
Here.
Beth Justice.
Yeah, here.
Larry Tuning. Here. Bill Goldsmith is here. Mary Hanson.
Here.
And Sandy Sturgill.
Here.
All right. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made and seconded. Let the record show that Alana Courtney is now here.
Who seconded?
Sandy.
Sandy. All right, any discussion? All right. This is the approval of the agenda.
Okay, yes.
Alana Courtney
Approved.
says yes. Sandy Sturgill.
Yes.
Mary Hanson.
Yes.
I say yes. Larry Tuning.
Yes.
Beth Justice.
Yes.
Marjorie Austin.
Yes.
All right. Moving on, public comment. First up is Eileen Smith.
Are you?
Good. Thanks for
My name
asking.
is Eileen Smith. I live at 256 Waverly Road, just up the street there. We've all been dealing with the local town road repair for a while. But the most delightful thing is the traffic has slowed down to and below the posted speed limit, which is not the least bit typical. There is a TCP, a traffic calming program that the town of Urbana should consider for the main local street of Urbana, Virginia Street, as well as the bridge into town, Watling Street, Cross Street, and Rappahannock Street. Their phone number is 757-385-4131. Speed bumps can be installed on local streets 200 feet from an intersection and must be 500 feet apart. The traffic must be at least 150 vehicles a day posted on a 25-mile-per-hour street. Not only are there businesses, but also several residences along Virginia Street and the other streets that I mentioned. People also ride bikes and drive golf carts. The traffic calming program operates through the Virginia Department of Transportation. I encourage the town council to seriously look into this program that could help keep the traffic speed down. We all know there are too many drivers that do not observe the posted speed limits. If anybody would like my information, there's a phone number here.
I would too.
I need one that you're handing out to council.
Coming from my house is 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, Martha can get it to us if there's not enough.
I did not bring it up, but of course there, oh, I'm sorry, sir. There is a procedure that you follow when you look into this thing. You can't just say, hey, give it to me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for doing that, because
I'll
it is a
Oh,
problem.
excuse me.
I live on Rappahannock, and they go in front of my house at 60 miles an hour sometimes.
I've been wanting this for a long time.
I have reached out to VDOT in the
One at a time.
past.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
Sir?
Just,
Mayor,
let me take those and, yeah, I'll take those and pass them down.
it's not you, Ms. Smith. Mr. Mayor, the microphones are going crazy.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, we got to talk one at a time, and that's probably your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, yes, that's fine. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have reached out to VDOT in the past for speed bumps and was told for rescue vehicle purposes, they would, slow down, rescue getting to where it needed to go, and then snow plows too. If we ever have snow again, it would be a hindrance for the snow plows. So I have looked into that in the past, so Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and it's my impression that where it takes place most is places where the jurisdiction takes care of the roads, and they take responsibility
Right.
for cleaning up and that kind of stuff, or
Right.
replacing undercarriages.
Yeah, because you're responsible for damage to vehicles.
All right, moving on. Chris Cummins.
This is a hard copy for everybody. It's just my statement and then a copy of the current lease that we're under. So we were advised, we have a slip down here at the town we're in. We've been there for the last 3 years. We've been excellent tenants. Our boat has always been in a condition that we can move. We've always moved for the Oyster Festival, and we've always moved for the town, the published programs that the town operates. This year, we were asked to move on several occasions for other transits, which is not in our agreement. And we had ordered service on one of our engines. It's not that it was broken, it was a routine service. And we had an issue with the individual providing the service. Because we couldn't move the boat for an inbound transit that was booked over a year ago, I believe that's what led to this conclusion. The dockmaster was upset, and unfortunately, the person who should have moved their boat was in California, was unable to move their boat. I do know that individual was gone for over a month, and did have a captain that could have moved it had he been notified in time. There was a month that went by, and the day before the other boat was to come in, then the dockmaster tried to have that boat moved. And so I feel like we've been unfairly targeted for something that we've really had nothing to do with. Then Mr. Costin was involved on a conference call, and I'd like to apologize for walking out on that conference call, but that conference call felt very premeditated and predetermined what the outcome was going to be, and there was no further point at that point in continuing the conversation. It was brought to me, there were so many things why, and then we kind of drilled it down. It got down to the point that the reason we're getting the boot is because, one, she was upset, the dockmaster was upset that she couldn't get the other boat in on the slip. Again, not anything to do with us. I don't know how we got pulled into that. But and the second part was, it all started, it was her initiation that had the action. When Mr. Costin was brought on the phone call, he started to ask, could we move for Oyster Fest? The answer was yes. We've always been able to move. We've always been able to move in case of a hurricane. I track the weather, not only for my job, but just as a boat owner, I track the weather significantly. We've always been in a condition to the point where even if we have to tow out, we would. The bottom line is what came up was a late payment issue. I can explain that really quick. The payment did not meet the 2-month criteria as in item 4 of our agreement. It was 10 days prior to the 2 months, but it was us who initiated the action. We never received no phone call, no text, no invoice, no note on the door of the boat, nothing. And it was after Oyster Fest that we got back and we were able to pursue. Nobody was in the office for an extended period of time, and we wound up giving it to the assistant dock master at that time, Sydney, who was actually on the receipt, who signed for it. And then we never received the agreement until the day after we were notified we were being terminated. So I ask that I did look at your agenda. I know that doubling the slip rate is an option, and then there was also like a probationary thing if we're going to move 3 months, and then you consider renewing for a year. It's never been an issue to move the boat. We will never be in that slip for Oyster Fest. So I'd ask that you not bring this probation in, because there was never any problem with this agreement and us at any given time. It feels as if things are trying to be fit the crime after the fact. And so I would just ask you to consider that. And as far as doubling the slip rent, I'm not against. Every year our slip rates have gone up. I expected them to go up this year, but to say we're just going to double a slip rent, I would consider that most marinas consider the length of the boat, and that's really what I would consider. I know you have 2 slips there, but also look at how many days you'd have to lease that slip out to try to gain what we can bring value to the table each year with what we pay. We do love this town. We love the marina, and I just ask that you read this carefully, consider it, and consider the conditions in which this was brought to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else for public comment? All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith, for bringing the traffic item to our attention.
Sure.
The
Thank you.
the marina item is on the agenda, so I don't think there's any reason for discussion for that moving forward. So let's move on to the next item, which is the approval of the minutes for May 9th and May 23rd.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? Having no discussion, Marjorie Austin.
Yes.
Seth Justice.
Yes.
Larry Tuning.
Yes.
I say yes. Alana Courtney.
Yes.
Mary Hanson.
Yes.
Sandy Sturgill.
Yes.
All right. Now, the next item is the marina lease item. Mr. Costin, do you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Move up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. The first item is the agenda lease, the first agenda item is the marina lease. You've got a report here, an overview. I'm going to say this right out front. This should not be here tonight. The reason this is here is that somebody 4 years ago made it an issue involving council about a lease, a simple marina lease. And I can only tell you that my conversations with the marina manager, it's laid out there, was that they were under the impression that this had been approved by council. We cannot find any record of that. We cannot find any record of that because this happened about the time the town was going through some, I guess, some transition between COVID and coming out of COVID or going into COVID. And there's no minutes, there's no recordings, there's no nothing. But there's also what we found was agendas for that period of time, and no agenda had this item on it. But there is this, if you will, this cloud over this issue as to whether or not council was involved. So for that reason, and because we've got the termination at issue, and I told Mr. Cummins beforehand he'd have an opportunity to speak. He did not have to sign up, and I would say that he could still follow up on what I have to say. But that's why it's here, is because there was some indication that council was actively involved in determining a special situation, 2 slips for the price of a slip and a half. Okay. Again, I can only go by what the marina manager has indicated, that the boat has been under repair ever since it came here. Okay, I think that's something that Mr. Cummins could speak to. But the boat has been under constant repair. It can move. He told me that it could move, but he said it's not ideal that it be moved because only one of the 2 engines is working. But it could be moved. We also have that, that issue of and that's one of the rules. That's one of the rules that you all have passed in the marina operations. And I will just say, one of the things that we talked about upon my hiring was consistent enforcement of rules. And that's what this looks like. So what I have offered to you all are 2 options. One is not to renew the lease or enter a new lease. The other alternative is to enter into a short-term lease that specifies the removal of the movement of the vessel from the slips for this year's Oyster Festival, completion of the repairs so they can be moved under full power on its own, and that the rate be set to compensate to get the revenue off of the 2 slips. Now, the marina manager has indicated to me that she has turned away enough boats that could have gone into these slips that you would have recovered that money. But I'll leave that to you all's discretion if that's where you want this item to rest. But I'm just telling you right now, the staff has been handed a bad situation because it was a special deal cut by a prior party. Okay, let's just put it to you that way. And I'll be happy to take any questions you have, and perhaps Mr. Cummins might want to respond some more.
I know you and I were talking, and I don't know if this is jumping ahead, but the way we're supposed to be working is we establish the policy and turn it over to staff to implement. And I think it's a mistake for council to get in the middle of any things like lease disputes because it sets a precedent. I had an accountant once that reminded me that if you create a monster, you have to feed it. And so every time a lease comes up where there's a dispute, I think we'd be dragging into a position where we'd be setting a precedent where we'd be involved in places where we don't belong. And so my tendency is we have established a policy and a price structure at the marina that is set up for, based on length of boat for transients and based on slip rentals for longer term. And after that, I think it belongs in the hands of the people that run the marina to work those things out with the slip holders that are there. And since this lease is coming up, it would go to the normal real rules of if you're using 2 slips, you get charged 2 slips, and let the staff work that out with the Cummins. That's the direction I would recommend, because I don't see us getting into the disputes of individual slips and their rental as they come up.
Thank you,
don't
Mr.
see
Mayor.
it
That's the question that really is before you is, staff does not want to get crosswise with what's the policy. And this one is an exception to the policy, to the rules.
Right, but this lease is coming to an end, right?
Yes, sir.
So if this lease is not renewed, then it falls to the staff to negotiate the new lease or contract or whatever going forward, right?
It would be, yes.
And so,
And that would be the alternative, which would be those 3 things, short period of time. If they're not met, there's no renewal after that. That would be my
I'm kind of
suggestion.
having a hard time with someone who's been a long time slip renter to just be pushed aside. That's my. I mean, their boat can move. He said his boat could move.
Let me just address the one thing that you said in regards to council. I've been on council for probably as long as anybody has, certainly during this period of time. In no way has council ever voted to give anybody a break or a rent. And I know Larry June wouldn't have voted for it if it come up. That's why I know it. I would not have voted for it. So I don't know what this is all about. But if it was done, it was done. Not by council, let's just put it that way.
That's where the facts are leading us, but again, I don't want to get crossways with what policy is.
Right.
Okay.
So can I ask a question? Go ahead.
I'm wanting clarification. So if we say that we feel that council should not be in the business of determining leases, we don't want to set that precedent, is that the alternative option, or is it a third option?
I would see that as a third option, but what I would say to you is we're willing to move forward with the alternative.
What does the alternative accomplish that the third option of simply returning it to the appropriate staff to negotiate?
They're essentially the same.
Okay.
They're essentially the
Okay,
same, because the main concern we have is the ability of the boat to move out under full power during hurricane season, which we're still in. But there could be some.
May I ask a clarification question on that? Because if the Cummins were asked to move their boat, and they say that they can, why didn't they?
That would be a question you'd have to put to Mr. Collins.
yeah, I'm just-
Because of what I heard in our conversation was the engine repair.
Yeah.
That they
So
didn't
then
want
they
to.
couldn't. If, I guess I'm just wondering
Okay,
if that's
so-
the case, and if, well, I'm just wanting to know. I'm wanting to know.
And
Yeah.
I'll certainly would suggest Mr. Cummins respond to this as well.
Okay.
From our conversation, what he says, I can move the boat,
Yeah.
but I don't really want to because it's a 2-engine boat and he's only got 1 working engine, so it
Yeah,
would
it
stress
strains the
that engine.
Yeah,
Okay.
it strains the engine.
So he can move the boat, but it's not like he can move the
But everybody else has
boat.
to demonstrate that
And
they
everybody
actually
else,
can move their
everybody
boat.
else has demonstrated that. Joyce ran through and looked at her logs of who's come, now, is it, okay, spot inspection, I want you to move your boat right now? No, it's, I saw you
Oh,
go, I
okay.
saw you go last weekend, so I know your boat
Okay.
can move type of thing. Yeah.
Okay, so it isn't, and I guess my other question is, if they have been tenants for 4 years and they know that the rent is due, why did they need special notice that the rent was in arrears? Because wouldn't they have known that the rent was in arrears?
I would say you would know, you would know when your rent is due, and as the lease says, it's due with the signing of the lease.
Okay.
That's a question for Mr. Cummins.
Okay,
I don't believe
but
that.
it's my understanding that they are not currently in any arrearage.
No,
Okay.
not at all,
Okay.
not at all.
They were
So-
only late that one time.
I know that they were
As-
late that time. I don't know if they were late other times.
Okay.
So Mr. Cummings would like, if you don't mind, when you come back, you pay the double rent. You're okay with, not the double, but you're paying for 2 slips.
Mr. Mayor, Alana, can it not address someone sitting in the, because I can't
Okay,
hear.
whatever.
I can't hear.
Yeah. So I ask him and he tells me
Well,
I
he can
need to
he can
ask
come
him.
up when.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll ask Mr. Cummings.
Well,
Yep.
I'd just like to say that I've seen the boat there, I live close by. It always looks good. It's not an eyesore or anything. I think he's rents 2 slips. I just really don't know why we're wanting him to leave.
Right.
And I know the situation with the other boat because when the other boat came in, the transient boat came in, that's the one that came to my house. I volunteered to let him tie up to the end of my pier to help the marina out. And that was not because you were not supposed to move to get him in, I don't think. I don't think that has anything to do with it.
Can't talk to him, remember?
But I'm sorry to see it come to this because I like the boat. It looks good sitting there all winter. We have very few boats there during the winter. And it's nice to have somebody down there all the
So, I still think that, well, you're saying that choice number 3 of turning it back to staff is essentially
We
going
would,
with
we
the-
would,
with
per-
the alternative.
we would pursue the alternative. If that can't be worked out, we'll have to stick with the decision not to renew.
Tell me the alternative again.
Okay.
Clear on.
I think what the mayor's saying is, you all don't want to get involved in this, and so turn it back over to staff. What I'm saying is, we would make the offer to Cummins to look at the alternative that's in your packet, which is 3 months, finish the boat repair, move it for Oyster Festival. And if those 3 things are done, then we renew for a whole nother year. Okay?
See anything wrong
The,
with
if we can't come to those terms, then the staff position would be,
To go.
we appreciate your business, but, yeah. you
Do
to
we
move
need to vote on that, or can we just direct staff to take it over?
I think a direction's all we need. This is, it's down as as an action item, but if you want, if that's your direction, that's your direction.
I
That's your
think that-
action.
I truly believe that we're getting into really muddy water if we get into any disputed lease at the marina.
For the sake of fairness, do you want Mr. Cummins to come back up and respond?
Yeah, he's welcome.
Okay, all right.
All right, so to answer your question, we were asked to move for another transit. We're a permanent slip holder. So now we upset the dock master because the transit, where he normally goes every year, this gentleman comes in every year, we know him. But the gentleman that's next to us now, who is a transit, came in and was unable to move his boat because he took off to California. He's been gone over a month. His wife went through a surgery, but that's not the case. He still could have had the boat moved by a friend local who has the same kind of boat he does. Admittedly, he said he would happily do it, but he wasn't given the time. It was the day of or the day before that the other boat was coming in that she decided to call the individual to.
I don't
move.
understand why that has anything to do with you and your lease.
Well, we don't either, and this is where it all gets
Yeah.
to. And then I'd further say, this probation thing of 3 months doesn't make any sense. My boat's gonna move under its own power when we leave for Oyster Fest. And my engines were not broke down. They were simply having service done to them. We were going through a routine maintenance of oil changes, filter changes, timing the internal mechanisms on the engine. It was not broken down. It never has been. We've always been able to move that boat. But moving under
Mr.
one
Carroll
engine is very
Davies is
difficult.
here. Is he working on the boat for you?
Yes.
So, Mr. Cummings, so, if your boat will run and you can move it for Oyster Festival, and then after that you sign a new lease. What difference does it make if there's a 3-month like probation?
I feel that that's being penalizing
You're
us
being
for
penalized, I
something
see.
that is not an issue. We're creating an issue. Oh, he's under probation now for 3 months, and I don't understand
Right, no, I
how it's
understand.
getting to this point. And by accepting the 3-month probation, I'm accepting some sort of wrongdoing. I haven't done anything wrong.
I ask, I'm still not clear. Can you move your boat now or not?
Yes.
Okay, so why didn't you move it when you were asked to?
Ma'am,
still
I'm a
confused
permanent
on
slip
that.
holder. I'm a permanent slip holder. You're asking me, I'm paying for a slip, and you're asking me to move my boat so that a transient can come in and sit on that dock, and I'm paying for
So
the.
so that the transient could be in your slip?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't understanding that. I thought that you were being asked to move it so the transient
I mean,
could get
you know,
somewhere.
and we like the transient that came in. He's a
Okay.
fantastic individual.
Okay, I get it now. I get it now.
But
Okay.
the only time this year, we didn't have the buy boats this year, or we would have moved for the buy boats. We used that opportunity to hire somebody to come in and service our engine. It was a great time to do it, okay? And then the individual flaked on me. He didn't show back up. I had to bring somebody in from Richmond, which is very difficult to do, and we're getting it sorted out. And so we're not going to have a problem moving for Oyster Fest. That has never been an issue since I've been
So
in
why
this
do you
thing.
have to move for Oyster? Why do they make you move for Oyster
It was
Festival if you're paying for a
a
yearly slip?
condition because the slip that we're on, they bring in a tall ship, they bring in a feature boat, and
Yeah.
they fit on our slip. And so we move out so they can come in and.
It's
and-
part of the deal.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Certain
it's
things.
always-
And we enjoy that because we support the function. We love the things that the town, does for everybody, and we like being part of that. So we gladly move for that, because they bring the tall ship in on our spot. But we have been exemplary, quiet. We don't contribute to any decline in the facilities or any of that. We're very to ourselves out there. And to say that our boat is in a constant state of repair is not true. Our boat is in a constant state of upgrading. So it's a big difference between repair and upgrade.
Money.
It's a boat.
It's a boat.
You're right.
Can I ask you a couple of questions?
Yes, sir.
Why 2 slips? Why do you have 2 slips?
Well, it's the only place we can fit out there.
Oh, I see.
It's
You're
60, it's
large,
68 foot,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
And was your understanding the council approved some?
That's
lease
what we were
agreement?
told by the dock manager, yeah, that this was all approved by the town council, and
What year that was?
that had to be 3 years ago. This would be our 4th renewal, I believe.
2020.
One
According
at
to
a
the
time.
first
I
lease,
don't have a
2020.
problem with you being there, but I just want you to know, I'm not in favor of you paying for 1.5 slips or 1 slip. You ought to be paying for 2 slips if you're taking up 2 slips.
Well,
Yeah, I want you to know that.
okay, that's fine.
And-
That's your opinion.
Yeah.
But most marinas charge by the foot.
Maybe that's the way we ought to do it, but if we're not doing it that way,
You're not,
then
And like I say, I don't mind paying the premium, but I'm not gonna pay for 2 full slips if I'm not using 2 full slips. I mean, that's just fair.
That makes sense.
Well, so, but you are occupying 2 full slips, as I understand
I'm
it?
occupying the T, and I'm not sure of what the length of those slips are designated
Yeah.
as. To be honest with you, I really don't know.
Okay.
But
I
that's
don't
where,
know, but if it's 2 full slips, then our policy should, it's not.
well, if your slips are 40 feet, I'm not an 80-foot boat, sir. I'm a
See, I
68-foot
don't
boat.
know. And I haven't
But
seen your boat.
if but still, you're partly occupying a slip that could be
That's correct,
occupied by
yes.
another boat.
Yes.
Hence, it being designated as you're occupying 2, even though you're not fully occupying 2.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, but that, I mean,
Am I missing
I
something? Mr. Mayor?
what's that?
Am I missing something here?
I don't think so.
Well, let me bring it to your attention. You have catamarans in there that are taking up double-wide slips, and you're not charging the catamarans double for a double-wide slip.
Well, maybe we should.
So my point is, if you're gonna do it to me, do it to everybody
Absolutely.
else.
No, I don't care, yeah.
Don't single me out on this.
And that would be fair.
Yeah.
It seems like we need to do a little bit of research on the marina policy as well.
Maybe it's not the policies, maybe it's the practices.
Right. I mean, the policy should be consistent, and it is written, so if they're taking up 2 slips, they should be charged for
Yeah.
2 slips as well.
Yeah. Right.
Which is all you're saying.
Yeah, because
Yep.
I believe you
Um,
have probably 2 or 3 double-wide slips, and when the catamarans are in there, they're they're not paying for both of those finger piers, you know, they're not.
The only reason I bring it up is because they indicated that council approved it, and I know we had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I
Right.
never.
And I had, I mean, we,
Maybe we ought to change it to the way you're saying we ought to change it, but council has had nothing to do
I understand. And please understand too, I mean, we didn't bring this 4 years ago or 3 years ago, we didn't bring this up. It was just, yeah, you guys can move in here, this is gonna be the price, and that's what it is. I
Yeah,
mean, we
Larry
don't-
and I are the longest serving, so, well, Bill, and I never heard it come before council either, so.
Is there any other questions I can answer about?
I think that's good, but I go back to, what is it, kind of a tweener is that we turn this back over to staff to be administrative and deal with the Cummins in a fair and equitable manner, and that going forward at the, we bring back up the policy so that it's equitable for
Everybody.
everybody.
Our
But
that's
concern
a-
at this
that's
point would
legally-
be passive-aggressive behavior on behalf of the staff, and I just want to make sure that's not an issue, so.
No.
Well, I think if you do your probation and make sure your boat's running and move for Oyster Festival, there's no other problems.
Yep.
That's what it, is that correct, Ted, what I'm saying?
If that's the way you all want to go, yes.
I mean, that's what the policy is, or not?
Yeah,
Oh, excuse me.
that's what he said.
Again, this is a special situation because it's got this former council involvement allegation. I leave it to y'all. If you all want us to go back and renew it for 3 months, that would be my recommendation as to how we renew it for 3 months, which is, it moves for Oyster Festival, it moves under its own power, and, you know, we're good to go.
And then he gets a year.
And then we go start a year, yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like staff ought to handle it,
okay.
and also I'd look into this
The
slip
fees,
thing
the
he's
fee.
talking
Yeah.
about, this
Yeah.
catamaran.
I've made some notes,
Something wrong there, we want to fix it. But
Well, we
So
can bring that back
Yeah.
perhaps next meeting.
So without our involvement, that is what the process will be
Yeah,
for the Cummings. That's their offer from staff.
right.
Okay.
Not the probationary period. Out for Oyster Festival, back in,
Under their own power,
pay the rent, and get a year's lease like he's been doing.
okay.
Question, when
mean, that's my
when
question.
would the new rate apply? When would they have to be prepared
With
to
the new,
pay that?
with the new lease,
So, okay, so the new lease would be after the 3 months?
yes,
January.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
yeah. Because I think you all need some time to look at those fee structures and how they're written and how they're being applied,
Right.
you know? Because you all may be saying, okay, well, catamaran slip is a certain price, and you recognize that the only thing that can go in there is a catamaran.
need
Or
to
two
look at
boats.
that and see if that's
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah.
Right,
You know,
that's what I'm saying, yeah,
Right.
See how much room they're taking out. But
okay.
I've never heard of any marina not charging by the foot.
We charge by the foot, but
we're
the,
cheaper?
I don't know how we compare.
Obviously not.
You
But-
would know, sir, you know? Are we
But
cheap?
what I would tell you is that it's the slips. It's by the foot for the slip. So, you know, there's that special accommodation that was made 4 years ago for a slip and a half, you know, priced for 2 slips. Because to Ms. Hanson's point, whether it's 40's a slip, 41's 2 slips. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you need to look into it.
So, it sounds like we're charging a different rate for for leases, for a permanent slip holder, that
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same rate that a transient would pay.
They're different, just like you would if you were
I
doing
see.
a rent in a hotel for a week as opposed to
Overnight.
an overnight.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, so we would need to look at both of those
Yeah.
sets.
Right.
Okay,
The purpose of this, the transient part was to bring people into
Right.
town, sail in, come and eat in our
Right.
restaurants and do all the other things that they do, and then stay a few days and sail out.
And I recall you've actually got a grant condition
Grant
imposed on
condition,
you that
right.
has so many slips like that.
And we have to have open, I think, so many transient slips.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's
That's
50%.
how many of our slips have leases? Do we know what percentage?
Right now, from what Joyce told me today, all but one.
All but one slip has a lease?
Either short-term, long-term, or they're booked. Everything, she's turning away boats.
Okay, but if we have as a condition of grants that 50% have to be available for transients,
Okay, I was including the transients in there.
okay, well, I'm
Okay.
trying to find out what percentage of permanence, not that anything is permanent, but permanent, you're like, long-term leases versus short-term stay.
How about I get that to you with a chart that shows you
Okay.
what we've done annually, what's monthly, what's weekly,
That would be great.
Okay.
because that's,
Okay, because that
That's the
sounds like that's
spread.
important for us to pay attention to.
okay.
Right, and I know Joyce pays attention to that to make sure that
Oh, yeah.
but if somebody comes in for a week, they're still a transient compared to somebody that signs a year lease.
Right.
And I know Joyce is aware of that, but it's good to revisit that periodically. But to get back to the subject at hand, if we just say, do we need a motion to move this forward, or we just turn it back over to you?
I think to be clear, let's get a motion, because I'm still getting different vibes up here. So, do you want do you want it for 3 months with those conditions, or do you just want to see that those conditions are met and go within 3 months of a full year lease?
I would say if that's what, I'm going to say if that's what you guys are going to do, the staff is going to do, then it just is what the staff's going to do, and we don't need to be involved.
I
So-
want to see him be able to leave for Oyster Festival, come back, sign a lease, and so that he can go on doing what he's been doing, whatever the lease is.
All right, the lease expires October the 18th, which is before Oyster Festival. Okay,
So the
so
3-month extension would give them, actually would extend the current rate of pay.
Into
or the current
January.
rate of rent into January, as opposed to starting October 9th.
providing that it's showing that he clears those spaces for the tall ship that's coming in.
I
Right.
think that would give us an official way of giving them extra time
Right.
at the current rate of pay without,
Current rate of rent. But
Right, the
yes,
current
that's-
rate of rent.
That's what I said, send it back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the staff,
Okay.
and that we don't need to make a motion for that if that's how it's going to play out.
do we need to make a motion to send it back to staff?
No.
No, you don't do. We have, I just wanted to be sure that
Okay.
you knew where staff was going to be trying to,
Yes, we're
trying to
all-
cut
I think we're all on the
trying to
same
cut the
page.
deal.
And,
Yeah.
right, and that's for the 3-month period. In the meantime, we'll bring up at the next work session what the current rate structure is.
Right.
And
Make sure
and-
that we're
and
doing
try
the
to
fair thing.
make
Gotta
sure
be
that
fair
it's-
for everybody.
that it makes sense.
Okay.
Revisit
Yep.
that.
I don't know that I need to know, but you need to look into this two-slip thing. I mean, if a boat's 41 feet and the slip is 40 feet, he's right, you shouldn't be charging for the two slips, but you need to look in, it's being handled. That's gonna-
Larry, but if another,
No,
Wait a minute.
if another boat can't use the vacant slip as a result, then they're occupying two slips.
Two slips, okay, I got you.
Okay.
all right. So that's it.
I think we
Turn it
got
back over to staff. 3 months to work it out. We'll look at the rates.
Good?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Meadow Lane line upgrade.
All right, you have a agenda item, which is in response to a low-pressure complaint along Meadow Lane. Staff secured a quote from Laneview Environmental, which provided some options. And after review and presentation by staff, the Water Committee recommends moving forward as described in the attached proposal. Those sections would be sections 1 and 2, which are zeroed out. 5, which is for $3,265. 6, which is for, I'm sorry, I misread the wrong number. 5 is actually $6,980. Section 6 is, that includes having to cut a couple of driveways and repair those driveways. And 7, which is $265 to install a shutoff valve. And I'll tell you, we need more shutoff valves in the town.
Right, and that number at the bottom isn't accurate.
The number at the bottom, the bottom of the number, and this is based on Laneview's QuickBooks, it totals everything. but we're only looking at 5, 6, and 7, and that comes to a total of $7,245. Staff would like a motion to be able to, for me as town administrator, to authorize and accept the Lane View proposal. Be happy to take any questions you have at this time.
And just to be clear, what we're doing is we're expanding the system, increasing the pressure for existing customers, and putting in lines that can be useful for other lots going forward, so we don't have to do this again. It's necessary for the first parts, but it is planning for the second parts. And absolutely, those of us that didn't have water for a couple of hours the other day
I was in the shower.
understand how important it is to have more cutoff valves.
Exactly.
And we have the funds in the water fund to cover this. Was it
Yep.
budgeted, or is this just a
This
kind
is
of a
new.
surprise?
You could say it's budgeted because we have so much in there for repairs and maintenance.
Okay.
So this is really an upgrade of an existing
Okay.
line.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'd like to make them, can I make a motion?
Yep,
Yeah.
it's written there, Larry.
It is.
Yes. Do you want it?
Where-
Here you go. Oh, he's got it.
Yeah, I move the town council, or town administrator be authorized to execute proposal by Laneview Environmental to upgrade the Meadow Lane water line at a cost of $7,245 as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. Marjorie Austin.
Yes.
Beth Justice.
Yes.
Larry Chuney.
Yes.
I say yes. Alana Courtney.
Yes.
Mary Hanson.
Yes.
Sandy Sturgill.
Yes.
Okay. Next item. Lost my list here. Thank you. Okay. Number 8 is the delinquent water account
Okay.
discussion.
We won't be getting into total numbers. We're going to talk about process. So during and immediately subsequent to the COVID pandemic, governmental financial assistance programs were available, but those have ended. And since the pandemic, accounts have become delinquent, and they've not been submitted to what was the customary notice of service termination or actual termination. Staff has revised the application documents to close certain loopholes and revised the termination notice pending in actual to better align with state code. And I'll walk you through those now. But financial impact, obviously, that would be positive. We cannot guarantee 100% collection because, quite frankly, some folks have moved away, but we can certainly cut down on the delinquency. The staff recommendation is to allow us to develop a policy and perhaps even some ordinance amendments to implement this. But what we'd like to do is have an absolute final go from you all at your next meeting. And then October through December, advertise through the website, Facebook, public notice postings at the office, the marina, the museum, that on or about January 1, 2025, the town will begin aggressive collection on past due water bills. The first week of January, we would do the first batch, and what we're talking about is maybe the top 15 or 20 most delinquent accounts. Whether that's time or money, they're probably the same, but top 15 or 20. And once we process those down, move on to the next 15, then the next 20. The reason for that is we would anticipate lots of phone calls, lots of people coming in to pay, and unfortunately, once in a while, turning the valves off and then having to go back out and turn them back on. So we don't want to hit everybody at one
Right,
time. It's just,
right.
it's more
Too
than the
much
staff
work
can
for you
handle.
guys, yeah.
Yep. So let me walk you through the documents. Okay. The first document that you should have, and we're kind of working this backwards. This is the notice that the account holder would receive in the mail. And after speaking with the town, this is going to be new for my staff. After talking with the town attorney, we can no longer do the door tags because the door tags had open information on them.
Oh.
And so what we would have to do is put this letter, a copy of this letter, in an envelope and tape it to the front door or something. Have to deliver it to the property.
So what was wrong, I'm sorry, what was wrong with
The door
hangers?
tags are open. you can read the door tag.
Open information for people to read it.
Yeah, I have it right here, Ted.
Okay, yeah.
I have it from the,
It's too easy for folks to see somebody's account information.
okay.
All right. So what she's recommending is send the letter via mail, and then put another copy in an envelope at the facility at the property. We've changed up. What's highlighted is new wording. So what you see there is highlighted. It gives you the specific code section, the Virginia code section that we're relying upon. It's actually greater than 60 days. And the payment option has been removed because it went on to paying through a telephone line with HRUBs. The attorney has also recommended, and this is another change, that we only take cash because checks can be canceled, money orders can be canceled, and credit cards can be, charges can be, when we get to this point, we only take cash.
Right.
And then coming down, there's a disclaimer that used to be on the tag that the town will not be responsible for water usage or damage resulting from an unintended water faucet, valves, or appliances once it's turned back on. You'll see a couple of notes there, one of which is there has to be at least 10 days between the date of the letter and the actual cutoff. There's a weather prohibition. If it's going to be 92 degrees or warmer within the next 24 hours, you can't cut them off. So summer, you can imagine we would be doing less cutoffs than we might be. There is no low end. I thought there was, there is not. There is no low end, okay?
There's no what?
No low end, no low end
Low
temperature. It can be 20 degrees and we can cut the water off, okay?
Looks like it's backwards.
Yeah.
Well, hydration, you want people to have water in the heat. Okay. So that's kind of what the new letter would look like. Now, obviously, before we get to the letter, we actually open up an account, and that's the next page. And a security deposit is required at the rates that were proposed. Now, the old form had a separate rate structure for in-town and a separate rate structure for out-of-town. And the thought was that perhaps it was higher in town because there's water in sewer, where some of the out-of-town is just the water. This is a water account. Everything should be the same,
Yes.
Right.
okay? And then the tenant would have to provide authorization that they could open up their account. But that authorization is on the next page, which I'll get to in a moment. Specifies that if it goes delinquent, the property owner is still responsible.
Okay, so this is just for renters. This isn't for homeowners.
No, it's for both. It's for both. This page, this one
With
is
the
for both.
deposit? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yep. Unless there is when you get down to the renters, the other changes are kind of small.
Okay.
Wording changes specifying the after 60 days. So let's go to the third page, and that's the property owner authorization for the tenant.
Okay.
Town attorney has recommended that we remove all the social security number references.
Yes.
And then down at the bottom, you'll see that for a tenant to have their deposit waived, they have to show documentation of rental assistance. So no tenant should be waived unless they're receiving rental assistance. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so if social security information is to be removed, why is it still there and not
Because
highlighted?
I just got that from her
Okay,
today.
I just wanted to make sure I
Yeah,
wasn't
I'm giving
misunderstanding.
you the latest and the
Okay,
greatest. I
that-
just
no,
got that
that's
today.
okay.
I
Hot
just
off
got
the
that
presses.
hot off
I'm
the
good.
presses. Yep, take off the social
Okay.
security numbers.
Okay,
Okay, and then again, down here at the bottom, while it's the property owner, is allowing the tenant to set up the account on their property. If it goes in arrears, they are nevertheless responsible.
So if we're taking the social security number off there, how would we be able to have that for collections?
That's a great question. I don't know. I thought about, can we get a copy of a driver's license? I mean, is there something, but,
License number.
but if
Yeah.
somebody's coming in brand new, they probably have their driver's license tied to their old address.
Or you
know,
could get
so-
the driver's license number,
Or you could, yeah.
and that could
Is
serve,
this a
in-
law?
that could serve in places. so
About the
somebody
social
knows.
security number?
Right.
I think it is,
I think
yeah.
it is too. It has to do with PII, with personal
Yes.
identifiers.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's why they don't use it anymore in driver's licenses.
yeah, okay.
So that's really the process, and the changes in the forms. I think for the most part, the forms have changed a little bit, but they just have to be updated, particularly with the notice. But really what I'm looking for tonight is if you all are good with the direction we're heading, we'll try to get you either a policy, a draft policy, or in more likely draft ordinance to look at your next meeting. Give us authorization to go to advertisement on that. But we will be moving forward with public notice that the bills come due.
May I ask a question?
Sure, yes, ma'am.
On the notice of water account delinquency, possible water service disconnection interruption, I see that it says must be fully paid by blank, or the town of Urbana will discontinue your service shortly thereafter. Should there not be some sort of, I mean, what is shortly thereafter?
Well, that's kind of,
days,
that's
30.
that's the wording to give us that flexibility, that it's got to be at least 10, okay? And I didn't tell you all this. This is something else. You can't cut anybody off on a Friday. You can't cut anybody off on a holiday. You can't cut anybody off the day before a holiday, okay? And you can't cut anybody off if it's going to be more than 92 degrees, so
It's hard to give a set number.
it's hard to give
Yeah.
a set day
Okay.
to say, hey, we're going to cut it off Thursday. Oh, Thursday's the day before, Arbor Day or whatever, and the next thing you know, yeah. So,
Are we sending this to just the people that just owe the town?
yes,
So we are, they gotta come here to bring the money.
right.
And HRSD's gotta try to get their money some other way.
This, because HRSD, HRUBS is the billing authority, we'll see that whole bill. They give us that whole bill. I think Michelle and I have talked about, they'll get this whole bill, and we'll pull off of that what's our water and send to HRUBS HRSD what's theirs.
I got you. But
And
we
there
will
are
be
some-
handling it here.
And there are some of our water users who wouldn't have HRSD.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Because we sell water to people,
Outside town.
yeah, outside of
the
the town.
system.
Yeah.
So they would just be water.
So do you need this read out that at the next town council meeting, we request that you direct the staff to develop a policy? And if need be, ordinance reflective to the water application, notice of pending termination, actual termination documents and state law, and implement the schedule as presented?
Well, that would be for the
For the
next
next
council
meeting,
meeting.
yes.
Yeah, that would be for the next council meeting. That would be for the next council meeting. I'm looking forward now, since it's a work session, some feedback. Are you okay with the schedule, the activity schedule that
Absolutely.
we've got in here, and
Absolutely.
where
Did a
we're
good
going
job
with
on
it?
it.
Yes.
And that was a good question about why is it shortly there? Why aren't we setting a hard date? We can't. I mean, if we have 5 or 6 ready to go and it's 94 degrees and it's going to be 100 the next, we can't do it. We can't shut.
And remind me, I thought I saw in here, and I'm not seeing it now, a provision that if it's a tenant property, when they go in arrears, the property owner will be notified?
Yes,
Yes.
that's up in the tenant section. Says provide complete property owner authorization
Yep.
form, understanding the property owner will be notified if the account is delinquent within 60 days. So they're basically signing, person A is signing off that we can tell person B.
Right.
So Ted,
Okay.
if,
Oh, there we go.
we have, a customer who's not on sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Does HRSD still collect that money?
No, they're the billing force, they're doing the billing, but we would collect that money and not have to give them anything else. No. Wrong? Okay, let me call up the expert.
I'm glad we had this talk.
Let me call up the expert.
Please help.
Okay, I thought we had this conversation. Go ahead.
We did.
HRSD does the complete billing for sewer and water or only water. They do all the collections as far as the payments. If you, Mary, if you walk in and you want to pay this bill, I will take the money just to get the money, but then I need to deposit it to our account, turn around and write a check to HRUBS, and then let them post it because they're the keeper of all the ins and outs for everybody. That is our agreement. So once they receive the payment, then they turn around and send it back to me in the form of an ACH. But normally I'm not touching that money. I'm touching the incoming money. I'm not touching customers' money except for those who are delinquent or whatever reason. And if they show up with money, I'm going to take it. But it creates more work for me to issue that check. And the other thing that I would suggest, and I didn't see this when we didn't talk about this, on the security deposit, if they're a homeowner, we can lien their property. I have a spreadsheet for all the renters. If I have to keep track of all the owners, somebody else is going to do it. Because it's a job in itself of ins, outs, houses sold, renters in, renters out, because we hold that, I hold that in my system in an escrow account, per se. So when you see the water deposits on the treasurer's report, that is recorded to a general ledger line that those funds are not our funds. Those funds belong to the deposits of the renters. So if I had to do that across the board for everybody, it drives me crazy because when that renter does move out, I have to go to that general fund, remove their deposit, and send HRSD their check. We always send their deposit to HRSD because if they have an outstanding balance, naturally that deposit is going to go to their balance. If they do not have an outstanding balance, then HRSD will send the customer the refund. So our job is when they're moving out, just to try to get the most current address where they're going to, and either to give them their deposit or so we know where to.
So what you're saying, it's going to make a whole lot of work to do homeowners.
Correct.
Because you can lien their property.
We can lien their-
We've seen that done in the past.
Correct.
So,
Have we ever done that?
Yes.
yeah, oh yeah, Holly did
Yes.
it before she left.
So if the renter skips town, we have no recourse? I mean, we can't go to the property owner?
Not at
They're
this,
not responsible?
not at this time because that's not what's in your,
We can after we do this.
We can after we do.
Ted will
what's in
explain that.
here. Yeah, good.
This one, and and I apologize. Obviously, we've got some nuances to work out that haven't come up from staff in the previous reviews of these documents. So, your question about they walk, and this was a question that Mr. Tuning asked in the water committee. When you sign on right now today, when you sign on to your water account, it's with the provision that you are subjecting yourself to the rules and regulations as they exist today or may exist in the future. So for the property owners, we would be able to go back in and say, hey, your tenant skipped out, you're the property owner, pay up or lien.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually been done before.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Should be. One other strange question. I'm assuming everybody on council pays their bills, but I mean, usually there's something attached that we all have to make to keep up with our utility bills or our taxes.
Are you asking if you all
Is
are
there
going to get
anything
get
we-
notices after 15 days late, or?
Will we address that? I mean, I'm assuming that's not going to be an issue, but
I'm looking at this holistically. Yeah, I mean, everybody, after 60 days, this is what's going to happen after 60 days.
So if you are a member of a governing body and you don't pay.
You're gonna get a notice.
You're going to get a
then-
notice, yeah.
Then you have
There
to
are no
drop off that
favors.
body.
There are not
Yeah.
gonna be any favors.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like, as I said, there won't be any favors, but there won't be, you won't be held to a higher standard either of 15 days, yeah. Except,
Okay,
except the mayor, he's 5
I'm
days.
assuming that won't be an issue.
But I think you said something else, that you're asking whether, if I was delinquent, and
Should be still allowed.
would I still be allowed to serve in my capacity as a town councilor? That's, I think, what
That's,
you're
I think that's a
asking.
different issue
I
than
think so, too.
processing,
Right.
I think
yeah,
so,
the
too.
water, the delinquent
Yeah.
water bills.
Yep.
Totally appreciate it.
I'll be happy to take any other questions, as will the rest of staff.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
All right. Announcements.
I'd like to say that Second Saturday is over for the season, and we're working on next season. Beth's already
Tomorrow.
got a couple bands that are lined up to come back.
The ones that we liked.
Yeah, the ones that we liked. And everything was great. I mean, we just got a lot of great
You all did a
feedback.
great job.
Thank you
Kudos
so
to
much.
you.
Thank you. We work hard on it, so to, give everybody
showed.
something to do. So, and we'll have our same food trucks back again next year because they were such a hit. Positive Pizza, you can't
Yeah,
beat them.
that was great.
They're great
They are
pizza.
good.
And T-Boys. So we've got that, and then we have the Christmas market coming up. We'll be in Tabor Park on December 7th. We're going to have probably about 50 vendors, and we'll have the food trucks out there then as well. So,
We'll have choirs singing.
yes, and mark that on your calendar, please. And Eric Fadre's going to play Christmas music for us at the market.
Yay, Eric.
He might sing too.
I didn't even know he was back there.
Just want to remind citizens that we've got an election here. We hope that you all will go and vote, and
Yeah.
please do not vote for me.
We're not on the ballot this time. That's not,
I'm aware of that.
that's not good, Larry.
You're not on the ballot.
You're not going to run.
I do have an announcement for people that are following the kayak trail, in that there is now an app called Explore Middlesex VA,
Oh, yeah.
which.
Is it on there?
Yes.
Yeah, if you download that, I was talking on whatever night Christie sent me to the EDA meeting. I talked to Whitney Law, who put this thing and got it up and running. And when you open it, Kayak Urbanna Creek is right on the entry page. And that has all of the different items listed in it. So it's a move. I talked to her about coming from Virginia Water Trails. There's not a link to Middlesex County, but that's a next step. So there's multiple ways to get there. And she said she's had 5,000 people download this as of the other night.
Nice.
So, all right.
And thank you, Bill, for making that EDA meeting. I wasn't able to. I got back too late, so.
All right.
Larry's got his keys in his
Motion
hand. I
to
can hear him
adjourn.
rattling them.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Sandy Sturgill.
Yes.
Mary Hanson.
Yes.
Alana Courtney.
Yes.
I say yes. Larry Tuning.
Yes.
Beth Justice.
Yes.
Marjorie Austin.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, so